General Clark, do you think Guantanamo Bay should be closed?
Absolutely.
If Congress cut off funds for the prison there, it would be closed, should they?
Well, I think the first thing Congress should do is repeal the Military Commissions Act. I'm very disturbed that a number of people who are looking at the highest office in the land have supported an act which advertently or inadvertently authorizes the admission into evidence of information gained through torture. That's not the America that I believe in. And the America that I believe in doesn't detain people indefinitely without charges. So I'd start with the Military Commissions Act. Then I'd get our NATO allies into the act. They've said they don't like Guantanamo either. So I'd like to create an international tribunal, not a kangaroo court of military commissions, and let's go back through the evidence and let's lay it out. Who are these people that have been held down there? And what have they been held for? And which ones can be released? And which ones should be tried in court and convicted? You see, essentially, you cannot win the war on terror by military force. It is first and foremost a battle of ideas. It is secondly a law enforcement effort, a cooperative effort among nations. And only as a last resort do you use military force. This president has distorted the capabilities of the United States Armed Forces. He's used our men and women in uniform improperly in Guantanamo and engaged in actions that I think are totally against the Uniform Code of Military Justice and against what we stand for as the American people.
Do you think that President Bush should be impeached?
Well, I think we ought to do first things first, which is we really need to understand and finish the job that Congress started with respect to the Iraq War investigation. Do you remember that there was going to be a study released by the Senate that the senator from Iowa or from Kansas, who was the Republican head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, was going to do this study to determine whether the administration had in fact misused the intelligence information to mislead us into the war with Iraq? Well, I've never seen that study. I'd like to know where that study is. I'd like to know why we've spent 3 years investigating Scooter Libby when we should have been investigating why this country went to war in Iraq.
The Center for Constitutional Rights has filed a complaint against Donald Rumsfeld, General Miller, and others in a German court because they have universal jurisdiction. Do you think that Donald Rumsfeld should be tried for war crimes?
Well, I'd like to see what the evidence is against Rumsfeld. I do know this, that there was a lot of pressure put on the men and women in uniform to come up with intelligence. I remember, I think it was either General Sanchez or General Abizade who stated that we don't need more troops. This is the fall of 2003. We just need better information. Well, to me, that was immediate code words that we were really trying to soak these people for information. And it's only a short step from there to all the kinds of mistreatment that occur at places like Abu Ghraib. So we know that Al Gonzalez wrote a couple of really, or authored, or his people authored, and he approved a couple of outrageous memos that attempted to define torture as deliberately inflicted pain, the equivalent of the loss of a major bodily organ or limb, which is, it's not an adequate definition of torture. And we know that he authorized to some degree some coercive methods, which we haven't. And we know President Bush himself accepted implicitly in a signing statement to a 2005 act on military detainees that he would use whatever methods were appropriate or necessary. So there's been some official condoning of these actions. I think it's a violation of international law and a violation of American law and a violation of the principles of good government in America. There have always been evidences of mistreatment of prisoners. Every army's probably done it in history. But our country hasn't ever done it as a matter of deliberate policy. George Washington told his soldiers when they captured the Hessians, and the men wanted to run them through because the Hessians were brutal and ruthless, he said, "No, treat them well." He said, "They'll join our side." And many of them did. It was a smart policy, not only the right thing to do, but a smart policy to treat the enemy well. We've made countless enemies in that part of the world by the way we've treated people and disregarded them. It's bad, bad policy.
I wanted to ask, you're a Fox News contributor now?
Oh, at least.
I wanted to ask you what you think of the Dean of West Point, Brigadier General Patrick Finnegan, together with a military interrogator named Tony Lagranis and the group Human Rights First, going to the heads of the program 24, very popular hit show on Fox, to tell them that what they're doing on this program, glorifying torture, is inspiring young men and women to go to Iraq and torture soldiers there and to stop it.
And not only that, but it doesn't work. Yeah, Pat Finnegan's one of my heroes.
So what do you think about that? And have you been involved in the conversation internally at Fox, which runs 24, to stop it?
Well, as far as I know, they actually put out a call to all the writers in Hollywood. My son's a writer, and he was one of them who got a call. They were all told, stop talking about torture. It doesn't work. So I think it was an effective move by Pat Finnegan.
So you support it?
Absolutely.
General Wesley Clark, I'm interviewing him at the 92nd Street Y. We're going to come back to the conclusion of that interview in a minute.
Load up your guns and tie a yellow ribbon around something. Something good has begun. The boy in the middle, he sits down to pray. He moves to the window, I can see him as he waits. Hey, Mac, look out!
19 miles to Baghdad, Lizzie West and the White Buffalo here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.